were widows, not virgins. There's a big difference. These were also to be older women. Read 1 Timothy 5:11. The instructions need to be understood in the light of the economics of the day. If you were a widow and your husband died, you often struggled financially. And Paul was saying that the body should provide for these women, perhaps a common residence so they could be supported. On the other hand, we have these verses endorsing marriage. Genesis 2:18, and the Lord God said, it is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helpmeet for him. Genesis 1:28, God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. And believe it or not, that's the first commandment given in the entire Torah. Then we go to the New Testament, 1 Timothy 3:2. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, and that's duplicated in Titus 1:6. And also, I already read this, but 1 Timothy 4:1 and 3a, the Spirit is speaking expressly in latter times, some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, forbidding to marry. So, the passage there obviously identifies forbidding marriage as a doctrine of devils. And we can see this by the fruit. Yeshua said, by their fruit shall you know them. What is the fruit, Ben, from celibacy? Well, if nothing else, the past couple decades have seen the blossom of some very poisonous fruit from this doctrine of devils. Catholic priests are becoming an endangered species. There are many churches, I live in a heavily Catholic community, Dubuque, Iowa, and there are many churches there where they don't have a priest anymore. That's partly because some of them are, had to retire or have been shipped off or whatever because they were doing inappropriate things with children. Others is that a lot of young men don't want to even go into the ministry anymore because it's gotten such a bad name. Those in the priesthood might be celibate, but they are not chaste. Recent studies, and again, all this is documented in our Straight Talk that I mentioned, recent studies reveal that about 20% of priests are in stable sexual relationships with women. Another 8 to 10% of Catholic priests are involved in more casual sexual contacts with women, what are commonly known as one-night stands. Additionally, now listen to this, between 18 and 50% of priests, depending on which study you look at, are involved in homosexual relationships. Now, putting it all together, what does it mean? It means that statistically, less than half of U.S. priests in the Roman Church are even approaching the ideals of celibacy and chastity. What's the point of having an unbiblical rule that most stumble into sin with? The celibacy requirement forces the God-given drives of men and also of women to be taken in very strange directions because, of course, nuns are also required to be celibate. And lesbianism is reported to be very high among some convents and cloisters. There are whole books written about it. Are there more pedophiles in the Roman clergy and other denominations? Well, this is hard to determine. However, it is inarguable that there are many more reports of pedophilia among Roman priests than any other denomination. In 2000, the AP, Associated Press, reported that Catholic priests are dying of AIDS at a significantly elevated rate. 400% more men than in the general population have AIDS among the Catholic clergy. The vast majority of these men contracted the virus through homosexual acts. In a confidential survey, 6 out of 10 priests said that a priest they knew a priest who died of an AIDS-related illness. 1 in 3 knew a priest living with the AIDS virus. Now there's another tragic effect of celibacy is the increasing abuse among nuns. Now when I went to seminary back in 1980, the seminary that I went to had tunnels that went underground over to the convent. And the story was, of course, officially, that the nuns would come over and they would do the cleaning and do the laundry and do the cooking for all the priests. And they'd trundle back that night to their little convent. And maybe that was the case, maybe it wasn't, but it sure brought up a lot of interesting, jokes and stories. In 23 countries, nuns report being sexually abused by the priests that rule over them. Priests are increasingly, especially in places like Latin America and the Philippines, priests are increasingly turning to nuns for sex in the hopes of avoiding getting sexually transmitted disease from prostitutes. These nuns are either being pressured by sexual favors or are they being outright raped by priests. This is appalling, brothers and sisters.